Hey, welcome back to Gold Scratch. So today, I'm going to make a couple points that you've probably heard me say before. One is watch out for marketers and marketing. They have no conscience. They will tell you anything that they can to get you to buy their product. It doesn't matter. The other one is if you're trying to outsmart the OEMs, the guys that designed these engines back in the early 50s, the small block Chevy was designed in the early 50s. You better do your homework and make sure you got it right because you might actually make it worse. And here's a great example. Going to have Alex come in here and a little show and tell first, and then I'm going to come back and explain what I'm talking about. That is an oil pump, an aftermarket oil pump drive shaft that I took out of a small block Chevy a while ago on a teardown. And this is called a roll pin. And this roll pin was just like this, a roll pin or a split pin. And the idea of it is split, and when you drive it into the space, it compresses the pin and keeps it there. Well, it was just like this as I'm showing you when I took it out of the engine, and I actually pulled that pin out with my fingers, just like that. And so why does that matter? Well, that's what was put in there for a reason. This is a coupling, and we're going to give you a little show and tell, showing you how it all works together and explain why it's important. And what would have happened if this pin completely fell out? The coupling would be free to move, and once it does that, it's not going to do its job. So what's its job? So probably look at my example of my setup here. This is what's going on in your engine. If you can imagine this turned 90 degrees, there's your camshaft, drives your distributor gear. Distributor drives this shaft, replaces that's the OEM shaft. And this is one that I took out of an engine, the O&O engine, that's the 4.7 swap engine now. It had never been apart before. It was more than 50 years old. That is the actual shaft that I took out of it. And that's the coupling that came with it. This little coupling probably cost GM a few pennies to make one. There's a little ridge in there, and what it does, it keeps the two shafts from bumping into each other and keeps them in alignment so they doesn't wobble around. And if it wobbles around, it's not a good thing for obvious reasons. And that's what it does. These are basically come free in every gasket set, whether you buy an oil pan gasket set or whatever. I've got a whole bunch of them here. And so this guy's $15.62 Canadian plus tax. I looked it up, and here's what marketers do. I'm going to read it for you. I took this, went back and found the marketers advertising for it. You can buy it on Amazon. So it says oil pump drive shaft, intermediate shaft, duty, fatigue proof, high strength. So that's just a word salad of a bunch of words that don't mean anything. I worked in the steel industry all my life. There is no such thing as fatigue-proof steel. It doesn't exist, okay? And even if it did, it wouldn't matter. They'll just tell you anything that they can get to get you to buy stuff. In fact, you replace something that costs a few cents with something that costs $15, and it's actually worse than what costs a few cents. So be careful, read the fine print and look at all those words and see if they make sense. Don't buy anything just because it's got a bunch of fancy words. Now, while I'm on this subject, if you do want one that is billet, I actually bought this ARP one, and you listen to my videos, you know I'm not a salesman for ARP, but what is a billet anyway? It just means it's made from one piece of steel and machined down, and it's not things put together. So the coupling on this ARP one is not secured by a roll pin. So you don't have to worry about the roll pin coming out because the coupling is basically pressed on and can't come out. That solution is $36.28 Canadian, over $40 delivered. I bought this just for this video, actually, to demonstrate that. However, if you do use this one, I don't think you have to worry about the roll pin coming out, which is a good point. So, once again, If you're trying to outsmart the OEM guys, think about it. This is the exact drive shaft and coupling that came out of a 50-year-old small block engine. It was still working just fine. It's not pretty, but it works fine. And so while I'm at it, I'm going to show you the layout of how all this works. There's your camshaft drive. So your camshaft, that's a helical gear that drives onto using your distributor. And why do you have to have this intermediate shaft? You have it because otherwise the distributor shaft would have to be so long, and the coupling also prevents the shaft from coming out of the block when you pull your distributor out. So it's a 1-to-1 ratio, so the oil pump drives at the same speed as your camshaft, which is half the speed of your engine. So if your engine is going 6,000 RPM, your distributor is going 3,000 RPM, and your oil pump's going 3,000 RPM. And you can confirm that by counting the teeth. If they have the same number of teeth, which they do, there's actually counted it for you. There's 13 teeth in the pinion and 13 teeth in the gear, and therefore it's a 1-to-1 ratio. If there was 26 teeth in the gear, then you'd have a 1-to-2 ratio, so it would be turning half that speed, for example. And so how does that happen in the first place? Because the gear that goes on here in the front of your camshaft has twice as many teeth as the gear on the crankshaft. So that makes it turn at half the speed. Hope that makes sense. So that's how that all goes together. If you're an engine builder, you know all this already, but if you're not, you might find it interesting. So what are my other points here? You know, I mentioned this before. Guys like Waddell Wilson and Bill Jenkins and Smokey Yannick and Junior Johnson, Don Garlitz probably built a lot of power reliably at Daytona and drag race thousands of RPM, and they didn't have access to Amazon. They didn't have access to all these aftermarket gimmicks like we do. So they did pretty good. So let's not get sucked into spending a bunch of money. You know, we don't have to. Once again, I'm not a ARP salesman, but if you really do want to upgrade it, this probably would be my choice because it doesn't have the roll pin that can fail. Hope you found that helpful and interesting. I always forget, please like and subscribe. You know, we're working on 20,000 subscribers. It's hard work getting there, guys, and you can support us just by ticking that subscribe button. Doesn't cost you anything, but it helps us. Share, comments are great. Comments tell YouTube that somebody's interested in the video, and that actually helps us to keep going as well. Hope you found that helpful, and thank you for watching Gold's Garage.